the year 1619, a year that would mark the beginning of a profound and tragic chapter in American history, a date etched in the soul of America. It was the year when the first African slaves were brought to the English colonies, forever altering the course of the nation. A ship arrived in Virginia carrying a cargo more precious than gold human beings. These individuals were not just any passengers, they were the first of many who would endure unimaginable hardships. These were not immigrants seeking a new life. They were not adventurers or settlers looking for opportunities. They were Africans stolen from their homeland, destined for a life of forced labor. Torn from their families and communities, they faced a grim future. This was the beginning of African American slavery, a brutal chapter that would shape the destiny of a nation. The institution of slavery became deeply embedded in the economic and social fabric of America. For over 2 centuries, the institution of slavery cast a long shadow over America. It was a period marked by immense suffering and injustice. Millions of Africans, stripped of their freedom, were forced to toil on plantations, building the wealth of a nation on the backs of their suffering. Their labor was the foundation upon which the American economy was built. The legacy of this dark period continues to haunt us today, a constant reminder of the fragility of freedom and the enduring stain of racism. The echoes of slavery can still be felt in the systemic inequalities that persist, but from the depths of despair, a vibrant culture emerged. Despite the oppression, African Americans created a rich cultural tapestry that has profoundly influenced American society. African Americans, denied their humanity, found solace and strength in their shared heritage. They built communities, celebrated their traditions, and passed down stories of resilience. Through music, art, and storytelling, they transformed their pain into powerful expressions of resilience and hope. Jazz, blues, and gospel music became the voice of a people who refused to be silenced. This essay will delve into the multifaceted legacy of African American slavery, exploring its enduring consequences on culture, economics, and the ongoing struggle for racial justice. We will examine how the past continues to shape the present. It is a story that needs to be told, understood, and confronted, for only then can we truly heal the wounds of the past and build a future free from the chains of prejudice and inequality. By acknowledging and learning from history, we can strive towards a more just and equitable society.
Music, a universal language, became a lifeline for enslaved Africans. It was more than just a form of expression, it was a means of survival, a way to maintain a sense of identity and community amidst the dehumanizing conditions of slavery. Stripped of their native tongues, they wove new melodies, blending African rhythms with European harmonies. This musical alchemy created a unique sound that resonated deeply within their souls, providing comfort and a sense of belonging. This fusion gave birth to spirituals, soul-stirring songs of sorrow and hope, sung in the fields and churches. These spirituals were not just songs, they were a form of coded communication, often containing hidden messages about escape routes and plans for freedom. These spirituals evolved into gospel, blues, and jazz, genres that would captivate the world. Each genre carried the weight of history, telling stories of pain, resilience, and the enduring quest for freedom. They carried within them the echoes of chains and the yearning for freedom, becoming anthems of the civil rights movement. These songs inspired generations, fueling the fight for equality and justice. Art, too, became a form of resistance. Through their creative expressions, enslaved Africans found ways to assert their humanity and resist the oppressive system that sought to erase their identities. Enslaved Africans, denied formal education, expressed their creativity through quilts, pottery, and wood carving. These art forms were not only practical but also deeply symbolic, often containing hidden meanings and messages. These crafts, often imbued with hidden symbols and messages, served as a testament to their indomitable spirit. Each piece of art was a silent protest, a declaration of their existence and their refusal to be silenced. Literature provided another outlet for Black voices to be heard. Through the written word, they could document their experiences, share their stories, and challenge the narratives imposed upon them. From the poignant slave narratives of Frederick Douglass and Harriet Jacobs, which detailed the brutal realities of slavery and the relentless pursuit of freedom, to the evocative poetry of Phyllis Wheatley, who used her words to transcend the limitations placed upon her. African American writers shared their stories of resilience, faith, and the fight for freedom. Their writings became powerful tools for social change, inspiring others to join the struggle for justice. These works challenged the prevailing narratives of the time, exposing the horrors of slavery and demanding recognition of their humanity. They laid the groundwork for future generations to continue the fight for equality and justice, ensuring that their voices would never be forgotten.
The economic impact of slavery on the United States is undeniable. For centuries, the South's economy thrived on the backs of unpaid labor. Cotton, tobacco, and sugar produced by enslaved Africans fueled the nation's growth and lined the pockets of slaveholders. But this wealth came at a steep price. The exploitation of enslaved people created a system of vast economic inequality that persists to this day. After emancipation, freed slaves were denied access to land, education, and economic opportunities. This legacy of disenfranchisement has resulted in a persistent racial wealth gap, with Black families holding a fraction of the wealth of their white counterparts. The lack of generational wealth has had a cascading effect on Black communities, leading to disparities in education, healthcare, and housing. Moreover, discriminatory lending practices, housing segregation, and mass incarceration have further exacerbated these inequalities. The economic consequences of slavery are not merely historical artifacts. They are a lived reality for many African Americans today.
Systemic racism, the long shadow of slavery. Slavery may have ended in 1865, but its legacy continues to cast a long shadow over American society in the form of systemic racism. This insidious form of racism is woven into the fabric of our institutions, policies, and cultural norms, perpetuating racial disparities across all facets of life. From the criminal justice system, where Black Americans are disproportionately incarcerated, to the education system, where they face achievement gaps and school-to-prison pipelines, the vestiges of slavery are evident. Housing discrimination, healthcare disparities, and employment discrimination further illustrate the pervasiveness of systemic racism. This systemic racism is not always overt or intentional. It often operates through implicit biases, unconscious prejudices that influence our perceptions and interactions with others. These biases, rooted in centuries of racist ideology that justified slavery, continue to shape our beliefs and behaviors.
Unmasking the past. Education as liberation. Education is not merely about acquiring knowledge. It is about unmasking the past, confronting uncomfortable truths, and fostering empathy and understanding. In the context of slavery, education becomes an act of liberation, freeing us from the shackles of ignorance and prejudice. Teaching the history of slavery must go beyond dates and names. It requires delving into the brutal realities of the institution, examining its far-reaching consequences, and exploring its enduring legacy in contemporary society. It also necessitates centering the voices and experiences of enslaved people, allowing their stories of resilience and resistance to shape our understanding of this dark chapter. Moreover, education should not shy away from discussing sensitive topics like systemic racism and white privilege. These concepts, though often met with resistance, are crucial to understanding the persistence of racial inequality and dismantling the structures that perpetuate it.
Repairing the breach, the reparations debate. This is a topic that has been at the forefront of social justice movements for decades, and it continues to spark intense discussions and passionate arguments. The debate surrounding reparations for slavery is complex and emotionally charged. It involves a myriad of perspectives, each bringing its own historical, ethical, and practical considerations to the table. It raises fundamental questions about justice, accountability, and the meaning of repair. How do we as a society address the wrongs of the past while striving for a more equitable future? Proponents of reparations argue that it is a moral imperative to address the historical injustices inflicted upon African Americans. They believe that acknowledging these wrongs is the first step towards healing and reconciliation. They point to the enduring economic disparities, the psychological trauma of slavery, and the ongoing legacy of systemic racism as compelling reasons for reparations. These advocates highlight that the effects of slavery are not confined to the past, but continue to shape the lives of African Americans today. Reparations, they argue, are not about assigning blame, but about acknowledging the harm inflicted and taking concrete steps to repair the breach. This could involve financial compensation, educational opportunities, or community investments. Opponents of reparations often argue that it is impractical, unfair to current generations, and divisive. They worry that such measures could create further societal rifts rather than healing them. They contend that the passage of time makes it impossible to determine who should pay and who should receive reparations. The complexities of tracing lineage and the potential for perceived injustices in the distribution process are significant concerns. Some also argue that focusing on reparations detracts from addressing current racial disparities. They believe that efforts should be directed towards creating policies that benefit all marginalized communities today. The reparations debate is not merely an academic exercise, it is a conversation about the meaning of justice, the value we place on equality, and the kind of society we aspire to create. It challenges us to think deeply about our history and our future. It is a conversation that requires empathy, understanding, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Only through open dialogue and a commitment to justice can we hope to find a path forward that honors the past and builds a better future for all. Because we won't go back. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. See you next time.